Focusing on life here in and around Whitley County. You're listening to Mondays with the Mayor on WJHS 91.5. Now, Mondays with the Mayor.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for Mondays with the Mayor. I'm Mr. Jordan Glaza with Columbia City High School, and with Columbia City, Mr. Ryan Daniel. How are you doing today?
Hello, it's a beautiful day.
You know, it really kind of is. And with the end of the school year in sight, we have a couple of students joining us today. Would you guys introduce yourself, kind of give the community a little idea who you are, your grade level, what you're interested in? Don't point at each other, just do it.
I'm Keegan Krantz, and my friend just told me about how we're going to be talking to the mayor and what we're going to be doing here, and it kind of interested me.
Wanted to be here. What do you imagine the future holds for you? What do you think career-wise, something down those lines?
Well, currently right now I am taking Ag Power.
Yeah.
And my junior and senior year I plan on doing Welding 1, Welding 2.
Nice.
And after high school I would like to join the Navy and do more welding and have that as my job.
Very good.
I'll tell you, welders, we need welders so bad. As you probably have heard over and over again, that trade, among many other trades, but that trade specifically, just such a deficit. So that's great.
Yeah, good opportunities out there too, especially if you don't mind shipping yards and things like that. Hint, hint. That being said, also representing the student voice here at Columbia City High School.
My name is Jerry Sikafus. I am Keegan's friend that recommended him to talking with Mondays on the Mayor.
And you're a recruiter, right?
Yes. And I'm kind of taking a different turn on necessary career path / interest. I started looking into science more, and I've kind of been looking into quantum physics and chemistry a little bit, and I think it's pretty interesting so far.
Nice.
That's really cool. That's way over my pay grade. Let's say it that way. I'm just a lowly mayor.
Just a simple little mayor. That being said, gentlemen, I know you were working on a little bit of research, diving in for preparing for this interview. Would anyone like to start us off with our first Monday with Mayor's question for the mayor this week?
I will. So recently we have gone back into orange for COVID cases, and we're just wondering how you've been reacting and sort of teaching, kind of representing Columbia City with that.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So, again, I think I may have said it last time. I mean, I'm vaccinated and all that good stuff, and a lot of people are or have gotten vaccinated at this point. But we actually are now in yellow, so that's good news. But yeah, we did dip into orange for a while. I was a little concerned about that, obviously, because we kind of based it on that color code. So I had a conversation once we had turned to orange. I had a conversation with our county health director, and he said, what's happening right now in our county is where the cases are right now. Right in the building that we're recording this in right now. It's in the high schools where they were having some significant outbreaks. Now, apparently that's going down because we're now in yellow. We're holding pretty steady at 1.5, I think, right now. But with that being said, there's also changes that are happening federally. If you haven't seen recently, there was the CDC came out and said, hey, if you've been vaccinated, you don't need a social distance and you don't need to wear a mask inside anymore unless you're in those crowded locations, airplanes, buses, jails, homeless shelters, things like that. So obviously that's a pretty significant change. At City Hall, we've remained open since we reopened. And have started to do some of those things. At this point, a lot of people have had an opportunity to get vaccinated. Certainly, student population, those are just starting to really open up if you choose or if your parents choose. But as a whole, the vast majority of the adult population in the United States, or at least in Indiana, we'll say at least in Indiana, have had an opportunity to get their shots if they wanted it. So at this point, there's a lot of personal responsibility going around. Let's say it that way.
Speaking on the COVID vaccinations, I don't know if you have any knowledge of it, but talking next year, will the COVID vaccine be a mandatory thing to come back to school, like how the flu shots were, or getting your shots when going to middle school, or getting a physical examination? Will the COVID vaccine become mandatory to enter school next year?
That's a good question. I can't obviously answer when it comes to the actual school corporation what they're going to do. I wouldn't necessarily anticipate that, but I don't want to speak for Dr. McDermott or the school board for sure. But
more to come.
Yeah, definitely more to come on that. But I would say I think you're going to see that as being probably a rarity in our area where that is going to be a mandate. Most organizations, the city's one of those organizations, has chosen not to mandate that for employees. It is a personal choice in a lot of ways. Certainly, as always, obviously, I've gotten it. My wife's gotten it. We've encouraged others to get it, but at the end of the day, it's still a personal choice.
May I ask you this question,
Sure,
kind of a
you may.
COVID follow up? Compared to other counties in the state, do you know how we're doing? Like orange to yellow, we're moving that direction. How's Whitley doing comparatively?
It's funny if you watch the map every time. I think they update every Wednesday
Yeah, it's
typically. But as you watch the map, counties fluctuate. Like at one point, there was a lot of blue, and then it went to a lot of yellow, a lot of orange, back to yellow. So it kind of just fluctuates. Every county is a little bit different. The nice thing is we haven't been in red for some time now, and I don't anticipate we're going to be in red. In talking to the health department, they had said they think we'll be in blue once the schools are out of session. So we'll kind of see. But yeah, comparatively speaking, other counties, it really just fluctuates. Most counties have been in that yellow-orange tier for the vast majority. Some of them have gone down to blue for a small period of time, but most of them are pretty fluctuating like us. Yeah.
Very good, very good. And I believe you had the next question for Mondays with the Mayor here on WJHS.
I do. I heard that the Whitley County Health Department,
Yes.
they said they were hosting like an Optum test site for COVID vaccines around like towards the end of April, and I was just wondering how that
went.
Going.
Yeah. So Optum, the Optum site event, if you will, the vaccination event that occurred with the health department was maybe not as successful as they expected it to be. There was still a fair amount of people there, but again, in this area, there tends to be, I'll just speak very frankly, there tends to be a little bit of distrust when it comes to the vaccine. And so I think that has driven down at least some of the numbers of what our percentage of vaccinated is. But long story short is that event in and of itself, supposedly from everything I've heard, went well, but they had wished that maybe more people had attended. So, and actually, with that being said, the health department as a whole, the county health department is actually, from what I understand, has started to decrease the amount of days that they're giving those vaccines because of just the lack of customers, the lack of individuals coming in and getting that. And it takes a lot of people. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, people, and time to get those things done. So I think they're going to be kind of slowly backing up from their maximum amount there. But yep.
Follow up to that, Keegan? Or we can change topics, of course, going forward.
Well, my next question is not even close to COVID.
Change gears. Let's roll. If we happen to bring COVID
roll
back
with
up,
the
that's
punches.
Okay.
Roll with
That's
the
how
punches.
interviews kind of work.
So I was researching for like Whitley County, trying to come up with questions to ask you.
Yeah.
And I heard there was an invest of $568,000 in new windows.
Okay.
For the school.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For the
And,
school.
Like, is it just for the school or is it like for more businesses?
Yeah, I think it's specifically for the school, and actually, I think that was maybe part of the bond for
believe
the
it was.
project.
I believe it was. So Indian Springs Middle School and the elementary, it's been a little while since new windows have happened. And some, with their last installation, I know there's some history with windows getting installed at school that you put in a new window and, whoa, it's leaking worse than the old one was. So kind of a big deal, especially if you think about it, guys. Like if it costs, say it's $100 or $1,000 to replace that window, you go around the school, there are windows everywhere.
Yeah, the
So
classroom's got so many windows anymore now. You know what I mean? Like the whole wall, the whole front wall is just like a window. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's
Just from where I'm sitting, there's 23 windows I just counted. Just from where we're sitting in this room.
and then the undertaking of the project. So spending that 586. What did you say?
$568,000.
68. Okay. Just that is an undertaking, and then for the time, the effort, and the energy to put those in, recently approved for the schools, and some of them it's good to have, and I'm glad to see it done, making improvements in our facilities
Sure.
to keep things nice and to keep the rain from coming in.
Yeah,
for sure.
well, and ultimately that was a part of the, I guess the sale of the bond, right? Like not just the sale of the actual the actual sale, purchase of money, etc. But really, the way in which it was described to the public was, hey, listen, we have projects across many different buildings that we also need to accomplish, not just build this brand new, wonderful, beautiful high school, but we also need to make improvements across the board at other buildings. And so it is good to see that investment in that resource. Mhm.
Other questions, gentlemen?
I did get an email about Okie Alley. Has anything
Yeah.
that's been happening with that?
Yeah, great question. We
Stole
opened
my question.
we opened up Okie Alley on Friday. I don't know how much I've talked about this in the future. So or in the past. So if I repeat myself, I apologize. So hunker down. We've got a little history lesson coming. Okay. So Shinzo Oki was a former resident of our. Sorry, I kind of got myself in the history teacher posture here. So Shinzo Oki was a former resident of Columbia City. Created the Oriental Shoyu soy sauce factory in our community. Actually, was born in Japan. Immigrated over here to the United States. Actually, ended up in Columbia City because he was hired on as a houseboy for a couple here to obviously do chores and keep up the house and things like that. Got his education here and went back to Japan. Effectively learned how to make soy sauce. Came back here and created the Oriental Shoyu sauce, which actually shoyu, SHOYU, is actually the Japanese word for soy sauce over there. And so the way he marketed here was shoyu, SHOW-YOU. I'm going to show you, right? So anyways, created the factory, employed lots of people. Other things that he did, if you go down to Baker Park, you can see some of the very few in this whole area of the country, some of the only ginkgo trees that we have. They were brought over from Japan by Shinzo Oki. He was a founder of the Crooked Lake Golf Course. He was a big Rotary member, which is really where we kind of started to develop this alleyway after him. Just real quick, couple of stories. Number one, he was a very impactful member of Rotary, hugely loved by the community. Ended up having obviously Pearl Harbor happen, right? He was very disappointed and ashamed by his home country's actions, and he actually stayed home from the Rotary meeting that day, which he was one of those people that came to every single meeting. And so when the Rotary members showed up, they obviously knew why he wasn't there. And a handful of them went back to Shinzo's house, picked him up basically on his shoulders or whatever, brought him back to the Rotary meeting to standing ovation and applause. Basically a way to say Shinzo is one of us. He's one of our community members. He's a great citizen, etc. And actually when the Japanese internment camps started happening within the United States, not only was there a letter to the editor that went out by basically every well-to-do society or social club here in Whitley County, Columbia City, that said, like, we are vouching for his good character. He should not be taken away, right? There was also a bill, additional language added to a bill from the U.S. representative into a federal bill that said basically the U.S. government cannot take Shinzo Oki. Mm-hmm. And just for extra measure, Rotary members and other members of the community literally stood guard at his house during that time to ensure that no one took him. So if there is one or two or three different stories that kind of shows you who we are as a community, that was it. So in Oki Alley,
that is a beautiful little piece of history there. I know when I drive by Oki Alley now, right in front of the courthouse, the warm like pop of like pink and bright colors. Man, that's kind of you never really would have noticed like going by when it was kind of a little more like untouched. Yes, it was kind of like bare cement. Yes, lovely. Yes, no, you probably never. But now that it's pink, forgive me, slight colorblindness.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. It is pink. The mural is the Whitley let Whitley show you. Which is kind of a cool thing. And in that alley we have some tables and chairs. We have planters. We got. We're going to be having bike racks here shortly. We're a little sideways on that. We're going to get that taken care of. Again, multiple murals. There's some facts about Shinzo Oki in there, things like that. But Shinzo, as he got to the end of his life, he actually became an artist. And so there's lots of his art in and around this area. But here's the end of the story here, or at least maybe the beginning of a new story. But when we opened Oki Alley on Friday, this past, I guess 2 Fridays ago, we were able to have his great-granddaughter there to cut the ribbon.
Aw.
And Leia Watanabe was there, and she had, I guess, it would have been Shinzo's great-grandson, her son, that was there as well. And just a really, really cool event. And they went to the Historical Society afterwards to kind of learn a little bit more about Shinzo. But it just, so many people made that project happen. Lots of individual donors, lots of organizations. Obviously,
Right.
Rotary was involved, City was involved, redevelopment, etc. But it really shows how we came together as a community, not only back then, but now for this project.
I think that's cool. And getting to go by it, it's a fun little reminder. So if you're eating downtown or
Yeah.
utilizing some of the park spaces, it is a public space.
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to get over there myself, but now, nice days especially. Why not?
Mhm.
Why not visit that? So one cool little event and happening, the ribbon cutting, of course, this past Friday.
Yep.
Which was kind of fun. Other things going on around Columbia City. I know we have a new police chief, correct?
Police deputy chief.
Police deputy chief,
Yeah.
correct.
So we actually, a month and change ago, we appointed Gary Parrott to be the new chief of police, and so then that left a vacancy in the deputy chief, and so we appointed Thor Hodges, who is a 26-year veteran, I
Right.
think, of the department, wrestling coach, I think, and. Actually, he's also a county council member, but he was a school resource officer for Whitley County Consolidated. I think he was mainly at Indian Springs. So long story short is he is our new deputy chief, which actually means that Indian Springs and some of the other schools are actually going to be getting a new SRO when we get that one appointed. But
Good.
but we're really happy to have Thor on board as the deputy chief, and the kind of duties of chief and deputy chief it really depends on the chief and what they want, kind of what they want to do. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes.
it kind of goes back and forth a little bit, but yeah, we're excited to have him on board. And as you may know, Thor, Officer Hodges now Deputy Chief Hodges had Jack, who was the therapy dog. And so while he won't necessarily be roaming the halls anytime soon, Jack will still be available for the school corporation or others to, if he needs to come out to
Jack,
kind of calm a
who's
situation.
Sometimes more famous than all of us.
Oh, totally. I mean,
Sometimes.
anytime you get a dog, I mean, they just immediately soak up all the oxygen in the room. Like they're the center of attention.
Very fun. First Fridays kicked off. Of course, looking forward to many
Yep.
good Fridays this season. Weather gorgeous for it.
Yeah.
It seemed like people were there till it was getting dark.
Yeah.
It was getting dark.
Well, so it goes 6 to 9
Right.
typically, but yeah, people tend to linger. They tend to linger afterwards.
You get in that conversation where
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I haven't talked about Superman since last year.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, it's 10 o'clock.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
it was good to see. It was fun. I'd forgot that it was taking place, but we still ended up getting out and having a good time.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
so I thought it was fun.
farmers market also started. We had a lot of things. So Oki Alley was that Friday, and then First Fridays obviously after that, and then farmers market opened up as well.
Feels like summer's here all of a
So
sudden.
it really does. It honestly does. Once you kind of turn that corner, you start to have those downtown events, and what do you know? We're about a month away from your favorite time of the year, Old Settlers Week. So that's on full. We're planning to do that. Saturday, I believe, is going to be the parade itself.
Okay.
We'll have the Midway downtown as we normally do. That'll take place from Tuesday through Saturday. June, I think it's 26th, but I'll double check that
on
as I'm doing that. But
so
yeah.
I have not participated in an Old Settlers Day. My wife's family's from here, but she even has talked about it
Yeah.
from when her family's in and around Busco and in this area that kind of sprinkled in.
Yeah.
And so surprisingly enough, the rumors have reached my ears. So I'm excited to kind of see it, given
Yeah.
last year and not necessarily everything taking place that we wanted
Sure.
it to. So that's on the way. A lot of the things, all of a sudden, it's feeling more and more like summertime
Yep.
as we go here.
Yeah, the June 22nd through the 26th is when we have Old Settlers. But as a whole, again, I agree with you. I mean, we've turned that corner. We're having downtown events and festivals. You know, everything generally speaking that we've had in the past is still planned to go this year versus, you know, not going last year. We have Memorial Day parade coming up here on the 31st or on Memorial Day. That's from 10:30. Starts at 10:30 at the Marshall Building, goes down Van Buren, then turns south on Madison to the cemetery where there's a short program by the American Legion. So just a lot of things happening, you know, and then you add on the different projects and things that we're working on at the city. It's a very busy time of year because everyone's raring to go.
I did want to ask you specifically, Mayor, and gentlemen, if you have questions, we're kind of running out of time here, but so jump on those if you have one or two more things you want to discuss further. What is the next project that you're looking at, Mayor? What's your, like, if you could get this done all in a day? Of course, I know you have a busy schedule. What would be your thing that, hey, I want it done now?
Well, that's a pretty easy one, I think, for me. Right now we're focused on Westgate, the Westgate neighborhood, and we had a little bit of setback with a grant application. We're going to go back in, and we're pretty confident about that next round. But the Westgate neighborhood.
Silly question. What is Westgate?
What is Westgate? Okay, so it's a neighborhood on the far west side. If you take Van Buren Street out to the west, it's the very last neighborhood on the left-hand side or on the south side of the street. It is one of those subdivisions that was brought into the city back in the 90s, was never really treated. They didn't get curbs, they didn't get sidewalks, they didn't get great drainage, things like that. So we want to do a massive overhaul of that in multiple phases, but we have to have the money for it. So we already have some electric upgrades going on out there. We plan to have some water upgrades going very shortly after that. But the road, curb, and sidewalk work, that's the grant dependent portion, which again, we anticipate that still will break ground end of this year, beginning of next year.
And what's it called one more time?
Westgate.
Westgate.
Yes.
So Westgate
Yes.
over there.
Yep.
And next time I go by, I can go like, hey.
There you go. Hey, that's Westgate.
Now
Yep.
I know why all those construction trucks and everything.
Yes,
it always seems to be blocking this intersection and stuff like that. And I can go,
Yes.
it's for a good cause.
Yes.
That when do we anticipate? Because it is in phases.
Yeah.
Like projected completion date
Oh, good
on
question.
that? Or is it just in the planning stages?
No. So we take it phase by phase. So the first phase, again, we project that will be completed by the end of next year. Okay. So, but taking it phase by phase, there's probably going to be somewhere maybe 4, maybe 5 phases. It's a pretty large neighborhood, and the way in which you have to do it in order to get the infrastructure to all fit together is kind of a little bit challenging. But point of the matter is, we anticipate that probably within the next 4 or 5 years, the whole thing will be completed because of that phased process.
Okay.
Yep.
4 or 5 years.
Yep.
Okay. So something to look forward continuously through
Sure.
that time frame.
Yep.
So the Westgate updates from the deputy police chief.
Yep.
COVID updates for Whitley County.
I got one more for you
businesses.
though
have
before you
something
dive in.
to bring?
Just one more. Another project that we continue to work on. We continue to talk about is the former CCHS property, park space. And, you know, that's a project we continue to work on. We're, again, another grant, you know, again, that's kind of the name of the game. We go after grants to try to build community and quality of life type things. So we are getting ready. Actually, a grant is due, I think, June 1st for that piece of property. It wouldn't be any development until next year on that because of the grant timeline. But we're excited about it. We're probably leaning toward amphitheater there.
Yeah.
With some natural park space things. I'm not exactly sure. We haven't squared everything away right yet, but we feel really good about it, and we're excited about that.
So it will become a park, or like what will
Yes.
it become of the area?
It will become a park. Yes, the whole space is going to become a park. I guess I should say the whole space that's east of Whitley Street will become a park.
Then what will happen with ETA, the old ETA building?
Yeah, so the Marshall Building, yep. So we've been working with the school corporation on that a little bit. It is the school corporations, it's not the cities, but we want to partner with them to do some additional education space. So we're looking at maybe partnering with Ivy Tech and partnering with Work One and doing some things like that to really create a center that's going to be something that is really impactful for our community. Not a whole lot of details on that yet, but there's a lot of things being worked on behind the scenes.
Good to hear the thoughts. And you said, but going back to Morses Park, the former Columbia City High School building,
Sure.
You said amphitheater.
Yes.
Okay, that is the first time that I've heard that word come out of your mouth.
Yes.
Will it be like immediately where the old gym was? Will it be facing the road? Will it be facing in? How many concerts a year are we holding there? Who are we bringing in and when?
Yes.
That's of course.
So I
music
have
guy
this
myself
I have this
asking that
far
question.
off vision, dream, maybe I don't know, maybe fever dream of some sort. But anyways, I have this thing way off in the distance in my brain that I say I would love, and I don't think it's ever possible, but I'm a classic rock guy, so I'd love to get Journey to come play in Columbia City. Okay, I know it's a dream, I know, but in any case, when it comes to amphitheater, the way in which we're structuring it is that it can actually be dual-sided. So if you have a smaller concert type thing, it has one side that's not as big of an area. If it's a bigger concert, you can go out the other way. You have lots of spacing, and that's actually becoming much more common in a lot of those park type spaces because you're able to utilize it for multiple purposes.
Yeah.
So the way in which we've currently set it up, which by the way, a plug is if you go to our city website, columbiacity.net, you actually can click on the park plan, and that actually will show you where things are generally located. But long story short is the smaller, let's say smaller venue type thing is going to be toward Whitley Street.
Okay, so then the
and
reverse.
if you imagine, it's kind of going to be a little bit northwest of where the former weight room is.
Okay.
Okay, to give you just a generalized idea of where it's kind of placed, because in the plan, the idea is for the larger venue side that it will be able to go far out. That road will be gone. That will be kind of the field turf type space so that there'll be lots of availability for people to sit and enjoy those larger concerts.
I'm excited to see that happen.
It's real. As a former show choir guy, I'm super pumped about this opportunity.
So community space potentially for show choir, potentially
Sure.
for student performances as
I mean,
well as the professionals.
Concerts, bands, Battle of the Bands, an opportunity for people to just go, if they want to go and strum their guitar and bring all their followers with them, they have that opportunity too. It'll be a public space that'll be able to be utilized by lots of people.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Mr. Mayor, thank you for always from joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
ColumbiaCity.net if
Yes.
you need more information on any of those or want
All
to
the
follow up
contacts
questions.
and everybody, yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. I hope
Yep.
you see how your input could affect the future in some way.
Absolutely.
That being said, Mondays with the Mayor here on WJHS 91.5, broadcasting from Columbia City High School. We'll join Mr. Mayor Ryan Daniel from Columbia City.
Yes.
Normally the third Monday of the month.
Yes.
Join us next time, Mondays with the Mayor, here on WJHS 91.5, The Eagle, broadcasting from Columbia City High School. Views and opinions expressed here do not represent WCCS. Search for WJHS on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and more. Write to us your comments and questions to be voiced on the air.